A couple of days ago, the Falcons made a trade for former Raiders wide receiver Bryan Edwards. The Raiders traded Edwards along with a 2023 7th-round pick to Atlanta in exchange for the Falcons' 5th-round selection in the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, if you're a Falcons fan, what are you getting out of Bryan Edwards? Well, you're getting a wide receiver that is really big and physical. He's 6'3", 212 pounds. He is a really good jump ball wide receiver. If you need somebody who's going to go up and get those tough 50-50 grabs and a good red zone target in the back of the end zone, Bryan Edwards definitely is that guy. And for the Falcons, they probably have the biggest wide receiver core in the league. And if they don't have the biggest, they have one of the biggest. A lot of their wide receivers have a lot of size and length. You look at Auden, Tate, Drake London, who they recently drafted in the 1st round of this past year's draft. And now you bring in Bryan Edwards. It's going to be really interesting to see how these wide receivers fare with all this size. And then on top of that, Bryan Edwards is somebody who had a lot of potential. And there weren't really too many Raiders fans who you could find who were happy about this trade. Many Las Vegas fans felt like they would love to have kept him around, but it just wasn't going to be a good fit because they already had a lot of talent and depth at the wide receiver position, and it didn't really look like Bryan Edwards was going to have that much of an impact in Josh McDaniels' offense this season. So they did the best thing possible, shipping him off, and they got a 5th-round selection in return out of it. For Atlanta, you have a wide receiver who has the potential of being a really good wide receiver one in this league. I think with a little bit more development, a little bit more polish in his route running, he could end up being something serious. And when you talk to head coach Arthur Smith about Bryan Edwards, he said that he's really good winning outside of the numbers, which Bryan Edwards is probably a really good 50-50 ball wide receiver. As a matter of fact, you probably could say that he may be the best jump ball wide receiver who the Falcons currently have on this team at the moment. Then you look at what he's able to do in the red zone. He's a really big red zone target. And coming out of South Carolina, the expectations for him were pretty high. However, his rookie season, he dealt with injuries. And then last season, when he had the opportunity to step up for the Las Vegas Raiders, he didn't really get that many targets. However, last season, he did have 571 receiving yards, catching 34 receptions and 3 touchdowns as well. But many Raiders fans had high expectations for him. And although he didn't live up to those lofty expectations that they had for him last season when he had the opportunity, many Raiders fans were looking forward to seeing what he could do with another year in Las Vegas with Derek Carr. But Josh McDaniels, I guess him and the general manager looked at Bryan Edwards and said that, you know what, we got to get rid of him. We don't really have a role for him in this offense. And he was a 3rd-round selection in the 2020 NFL Draft. And for the Raiders, they have pretty much declined all the 5th-year options of their former draft picks prior to Josh McDaniels arriving. And on top of that, Bryan Edwards is another draft pick from that draft class that didn't really pan out. You look at David Arnett, he's no longer with the team. Henry Ruggs is no longer with the team. And you can add Bryan Edwards along with the list of players who haven't panned out from that 2020 draft class with the Raiders. However, with him going to the Falcons, it's a fresh start. This definitely could be what he needs to jumpstart his career. He had a really clutch catch against the Baltimore Ravens earlier last season on Monday Night Football. It ended up initially being ruled as a touchdown, but then they went back and they reviewed it and they brought it back out. But I look at Bryan Edwards. I think that he could do big things in this Falcons offense with Marcus Mariota. And I know Marcus Mariota doesn't strike you as a quarterback who is going to take a lot of shots downfield. But you look at Arthur Smith, somebody who puts a good amount of emphasis on running the football. You get the run game going. Then you get the play action pass game going, which is going to open up one-on-one opportunities with Bryan Edwards downfield in those situations where he's going to have the chance to go up and get those jump balls. And the only knock that I could really find that Raiders fans had against Bryan Edwards was the fact that he's not the fastest wide receiver, so he doesn't create a lot of separation. However, when you have somebody who's really good at going up and getting those contested catches, do you really need to create a lot of separation? Because he's mainly going to be used when it comes to taking shots downfield. So I think for the Falcons, you got a really good bargain. You traded a 5th round pick for somebody who has tons of upside. He's going to be a physical wide receiver. Although he doesn't bring a lot of speed, he does bring an element to this offense now where the Falcons probably have the biggest wide receiving core in the NFL. You already have Auden, Tate, Drake London. Now you bring in Bryan Edwards. It's going to be really interesting seeing how this wide receiver position fares with the opposing secondaries that they're going to be matched up against, because I don't know if you guys know this, but the average size of the starting cornerback in the NFL is around 5'10", 5'11". You look at the wide receivers that the Falcons have, Drake London, Tate, Edwards, all of these guys have immense size, really big. On top of that, we can't forget about Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had one of the greatest, if not the greatest rookie season that we ever seen from a rookie tight end. He's going to have a big role in the offense also. So additionally, I'm really big on acquiring players who have a lot of upside, a lot of untapped potential, because when you bring in these types of players like a Bryan Edwards, all you really need to do is to somewhat develop them and put them in the right role in your offense, and they can end up blossoming into something special. And I think that is what the Atlanta Falcons are banking on with Bryan Edwards, and I think it can happen. As a matter of fact, I drafted Bryan Edwards on a lot of my fantasy football teams last season, and I kept him on. He had a couple of solid games, but you're looking for a little bit more out of him. So what are the expectations for Bryan Edwards with the Atlanta Falcons? Well, we don't really know right now because we don't even know what role he's going to have in this offense. But I definitely feel like if he ends up getting the starting nod with Marcus Mariota at the helm, or even with Desmond Ridder at the helm, they're going to find ways to get him the ball, because all you really need to do is just to throw the ball downfield to him, and he's going to go up and make those catches 9 times out of 10. However, if he can become a better route runner and become better when it comes to creating separation off the line of scrimmage, I think you end up having one of the best wide receivers in the league if he ends up being able to improve in those areas, ends up hitting on his potential that hasn't yet been unleashed, at least not with the Las Vegas Raiders. So you guys let me know how you guys feel about this move down in the comment section down below. Do you guys feel like Bryan Edwards is going to do big things with the Atlanta Falcons, or is he just going to end up being somebody else who just doesn't pan out, gets traded to a new team, and still doesn't do anything? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And right tackle Ryan Ramczyk.